Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Good afternoon. Welcome to my show. This is Balanced Life, Conversations Connecting to a Healthier You. With me, I'm your host. I'm Debbie Carlin Boyle. I welcome you this afternoon to what's going to be a wonderful topic, something that I think is very apropos for what's going on in the world right now, and I'm glad to have you join us. But before we get started, I want to let you know that we are an interactive show, and I want you to become part of the conversation too. So if you can, write this down if you're listening live. The number here is 323-524-2599. That's 323-524-2599. If you want to make a comment or ask a question, we'd love to have you join us. I also want to let you know that I'm here to help you with any of your personal health and wellness needs. I am a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and a health and nutrition coach. So I help people live in balance, which is why I call my business Balanced Life. There's a lot of things that we need that connect us to be well. And I help you help yourself live a sustainable, balanced, healthy life. And I give free sessions, so if you want to get in touch with me, just go to my website. That's balancedlifebydebbie.com. Great. Love to have you. All right. So today's show, we're going to get into the kind of the anxiousness and the stress that's been going on now that we're coming out of the pandemic. So most recently, researchers who evaluated two sets of data, one that was collected pre-COVID-19 and the other collected during the pandemic, concluded that the prevalence of depressive symptoms in the U.S. were more than threefold higher during COVID-19 compared than before COVID. So as we find ourselves coming out of the pandemic, we also find that there's a lot of fear surrounding us, which in turn increases our stress and our anxiety. My guest and co-host today, Tarnie Fulloon, and I will be exploring the nervous system and all the ways to calm the anxious self. Welcome to part 5 of our series, Living Through Healthy Life Approaches. Today we will discuss the physical symptoms of anxiety and ways to ease and eliminate them altogether by recognizing how to know your body and learning to read the signals when stressors are high and how to handle them. We have plenty of techniques and tools and suggestions to help you balance your nervous system. So my co-host for this 5-part series is Tarnie Fulloon. Tarnie is the creator of Body-Centered Medicine, a somatic and embodiment method that uncovers what your body's pain and anxiety are holding. Tarnie believes that the body's intelligence has information you need for healing. She guides those that are ready to heal on all levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Once again, will you please welcome back to the show, Tarnie Fulloon. There she is. There she is. Hi, Tarnie.
Hi, Debbie. Nice to see you.
Welcome
nice
back.
To see you again.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're not in studio with me today, but that's okay. We've done plenty. We've done it both ways. We've been together now. It's our 6th time doing a show together.
Yes, I know. It's great.
Which just really thrills me. And we're on our 5th in our series of living well through healthy life approaches. And today's series is all about unwinding your anxious self. Because there's a lot of anxiety that's been building up over this last year. And now getting back, there's confusion about wearing masks, not wearing masks, who might be vaccinated, who's not, what's right, what's wrong. and it's playing out in different ways in our bodies. And so we're going to get into all of that today. So
It,
go ahead.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to have you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself, and that way we can kind of lead in from an authoritative point of view on talking about anxiety and stress and what it is.
So thank you, Debbie. And as always, lovely to be with you. My background is a sports medicine physiotherapist. So I worked on the physical level for many years. I then came to the United States to do my master's in spiritual psychology and went on to do my somatic movement training. So a lot of my work has been related with the stresses that turn up in the physical body. But I've also worked a lot with just straight anxiety, that stress and anxiety, those that turns up in the symptoms of, sleeplessness and racing heartbeats and sweaty hands, because I actually have had anxiety myself, so I understand it very well. And so it's really, and I think with this pandemic, there's been some incredible amount of I think you said, Debbie, increase in stress and anxiety and triggering past trauma in the body. It's triggering new issues, and it all turns up. That stress and anxiety all turns up in the body. And there's some very, very specific symptoms, or I say specific. There's some stress and anxiety can turn up in many different symptoms, but often body pain, aches and pains, digestive issues, insomnia, not sleeping, finding it hard to concentrate. Maybe heart palpitations can often be related to anxiety. And of course, that very overthinking mind, worrying, future negative. When we've talked about negative beliefs in the past and, limiting beliefs, but we hold those and we project them. So there's a lot of things that the stress, if you will, can accentuate. And it turns up in the body somewhere. And that's where I come in, because I'm a specialist in body-centered medicine, in actually identifying what that pain, what that ache, what that symptom, what that issue you've got in your life and how it's turning up and how to release it.
Yes, and you're very good at what you do, I have to say, and helping us identify, because people will often come to you with an ache, a pain, a chronic illness or something, and you get to the heart, literally to the heart of the matter. You dig deep to find out where past trauma may have caused that, and what is stressing you maybe at the moment, what the triggers are, and then what we're going to talk about today is how to figure that out, how to identify, and how to alleviate. And give you good tips for that. So when we talk about, we're going to explore calming the nervous system. So when we talk about the nervous system, what are we really dealing with here?
So yeah, Debbie, thank you. It's really when we talk about the nervous system, there's two branches of it. And many of you may have heard of it. There's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is the one that revs us up. That's the one that gets the heart rate going. That's the one that, motivates you. That's the one, it's called flight, fright, or freeze. So you've probably heard of that. So it's the one that makes you race away or, stand up and fight, but it also can freeze. So that's the one that often many of us, when they talk about adrenal fatigue or people are stressed out or overwhelmed, or it's often the sympathetic nervous system that's overactivated. So the work, and certainly the work that my body-centered medicine that I've created, this system, and there are other systems too, but my particular case is it's calming the nervous system is actually finding the way to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the one that's called rest and digest. So one's sympathetic is got to get going, either got to fight or run, or you freeze, or the parasympathetic is when I relax, I calm down, I go into meditation, I read a book, I quietly eat my meal, I rest and digest and relax and sleep well. And that's what we're really, when we're trying to relieve anxiety and stress and overwhelm, and in work with pain or whatever those symptoms, depression that are turning up in the body, turning up in your life, we want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system to get relief and change basically your operating system. So that's the one you go to more regularly than the sympathetic.
Right. And that can be learned, really, because I would think
Absolutely.
that the sympathetic nervous system is, I'm not going to say it's out of our control, but it really creeps up on us, it like an event, a situation, whether it be road rage or an argument with a significant other or something even more catastrophic than that, we really don't know it's activated. But the thing here is, when those things happen, like what we're in now, and they are activated, we want to identify, oh, this is what's going on. I'm in that fight or flight mode right now, the sympathetic, and I need to learn how to pull myself down and out of it to get to the parasympathetic mode, like you were saying. Because
yes, I mean, it's like I was going to say the sympathetic is like accelerating in the car. You're pushing the pedal, you're revved up. And then the parasympathetic is like putting on the brakes and saying, okay, we can slow down here. We're not in danger. And so it's teaching yourself and your system how to slow down, how to be, it's safe. It's okay not to be hypervigilant or not to be so worried about something, or not, trying to fix something or get something done. And so it's the parasympathetic that helps you slow down and feel safe and allow you to just rest the body. Otherwise, it just ends up being deeply fatigued.
Yes, and the problem with that becomes can become chronic. Yes. And then illness sets in. So when we talk about chronic fatigue, and when we talk about having adrenal fatigue, when your adrenals are shot, is when you're allowing disease to manifest and to take control of you and take hold of you. So this is all about avoidance, because there's no doubt we're all going to have anxiety over an event, or get anxious when we're driving or during a conversation or a situation. But they should be moments. They shouldn't be chronic. And something...
Yes, you don't want it to say... I want to just say that we don't want it to stay in the body. You don't want it to get trapped. So then it becomes the normal state, which a lot of people are in. They're in the sympathetic. So even if you're, and not just anxiety, but even if you're a doer, a pusher, you're an overgiver, you're someone always racing against time, that's all the sympathetic nervous system being activated. If you're, I mean to do something for myself, maybe self-nourish or care for myself. And I don't mean just doing your nails or having a massage, which is great, but if, really taking time to drop in. And when we don't we often push that aside. We'll often say, oh, I'll do me later, and I'll, attend to this email, I'll answer this call, I'll go pick up the kids, I'll, do what it is that somebody else wants. And that all keeps that sympathetic nervous system activated.
And it's accumulative. And what happens is we, our hormones are affected, and most obviously is our cortisol level. And our cortisol levels, that regulates our thyroid. When our thyroid's off, again, we're going to get sick. And you want to stay in control of all of those systems. And so getting your cortisol levels at a balanced level is really important. It affects whether, our sleep patterns, it affects everything we do in life. So that it's real important to not let that anxiety and stress overcome your body. And so we're going to get into what we can do to not let that happen and let the parasympathetic system take hold instead of the sympathetic system. So, you touched on it in the beginning, the ways you can recognize that you're in this mode. that your sympathetic system
Sympathetic nervous system, yes.
has kicked in. And you would, one of the things I just said is trouble sleeping. So insomnia, nightmares.
So yes,
to
insomnia,
recognize some of these bullet points we can talk
yes.
about, so people know whether they're there or not.
Well, I think one of the ways is that there's a number of different levels. So there could be just simply that, and I don't mean simply as in simple, but that those overly anxious thoughts, the woulda, shoulda, couldas, or the what ifs, so you're anxious about maybe going to that party, you're anxious about driving, to some event, are you worried about, have you thought of all the things you need, the list on your grocery list, just sort of those thoughts that you turn over and you start punishing or judging yourself for. So often an anxious self will be worried that they're not good enough, didn't do something properly, it wasn't, I wasn't perfect at it, so the perfectionist can come out. So they're part of the anxious self, but it can turn up, so it can be the thoughts that you're running through your head, and that they just sort of really what I call self-punishing, but they're punishing thoughts. They can be aches and pains, body aches and pains, can definitely turn up. Often I see it in the neck and the shoulders, or the neck and the mid-back. Often there's a tightness in the chest, could have heart racing, can have sweaty palms. It's really an over-worrier, and feeling that sense of overwhelm. You can also get difficulty sort of concentrating or following through, or getting, and I said overwhelmed earlier, getting that sort of, I don't know what to do first, I don't know what list. The anxious self can also get very depressed and feel, why bother? I'm not going to do it. Just doesn't know what to do next. So there's no motivation. And also the anxious self can feel, and I may have mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again, really a sense of unworthiness. So, when you've got that feeling running underneath, it's the poor system, our body system, doesn't have a time to rest. And it's really important to recognize, am I anxious? Is my sympathetic nervous system, and we don't really call it that, we don't talk about that in the general public, but is my system feeling fatigued? Am I feeling run down? Am I feeling like I'm not on my life purpose? Do I feel like I have no joy in my life? Do I feel like that I'm just not getting anywhere? So they're all signs of anxiety. And there's been some, and I'd love to talk about that. Debbie, I'd love to hear you respond to that too. And then there's been some research that's come out from this last year of signs and symptoms that have come up just through the pandemic, because it has stressed us all out.
Yes.
In very different ways.
Very much
it has stressed us out.
Very much so. I mean, in the beginning, of course, it was the unknown. The unknown will stress us out. And then, we kind of were on the roller coaster of, things are opening. Oh, wait a second, things are closing, and you're watching the news, and like you said, you start to feel your heart race. I know that with my clients, when I see that they're dehydrated in some way, you know what I mean? Like they're always thirsty, they're not hungry. I know they've activated their nervous system, that they're in a stressor mode. And if they start talking about something that's making them anxious about, I have to go to this today, and I'm going to be, around people that aren't vaccinated or whatever, I can see the anxiety within them. It's, when you feel, one of the very easiest ways to realize that you're sort of in that anxious mode is when you can't eat or sleep. That saying, I can't feel like I can't eat or sleep. I'm so worried about this. You're worried. You're in the worry mode. And those kind of things, they pile up. They add up on you, because now you're not eating, so you're not getting the fuel you need. And then what happens is when people get anxious, they tend to go to the wrong foods, right? They also tend to numb. So what do you numb with? Alcohol, food, medication, whether it be prescription or recreational drugs. And now you're not dealing with it in the way that will actually benefit you. This is going to make things worse. This is going to harm you in the long run. So I see, what happened again at the beginning of the pandemic is people were sitting on their couch. They were worried. They were eating. They talk about the 15 that you gain during quarantine. It's a real thing for most of us. Now, some of us discovered cooking for the first time and discovered health and exercise for the first time. That's actually the minority. The majority started off in fear. And when you're in fear, you don't take good care of yourself. So I see it play out that way. I saw that play out with my clients when we first got back together again, is that they weren't eating well, they weren't sleeping, their nerves were shot, they were really at their wits' end trying to figure out what the next thing is that's going to slap them in the face. And where their kids weren't in school, everybody was home, the family that wasn't with them, they were worried about it. It was just really hard to get a grip. And when you can't, fear in itself will cause stress and anxiety. So that's when we have to recognize the fear and what we're doing to mask it that's making things worse. So you and I, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but what you and I are going to talk about, how can we recognize that we're in this mode? And then what are the things that we can do to reverse and get us back to a more calming parasympathetic mode? So we'll be right back after this word from one of my sponsors. I have been a wine enthusiast for many decades, but for a while I had to stop drinking wine because of the sleepless nights and the headaches that I would have in the morning, even after only one glass. Does this sound familiar? So for the past 5 years, and since the start of my show, I've been looking for a healthy wine, and finally I found the answer I've been looking for: dry farm wines. Dry farm wines are lab tested for purity, just 12.5% alcohol or less, 0.15 grams of sugar or less per glass, very low sulfites, and free of toxic additives. Dry farm wines are dry farmed with healthy, biodiverse soil, and the taste, bright and vibrant due to no manipulation. I can't say enough about the amazing wines that I've tried. And now you too can drink wine and not worry about how it is negatively affecting your health. Just go to dryfarmwines.com/balanced life by Debbie so you too can taste the love put into every bottle. Okay. Yay. We're back. We're back. That's a very enthusiastic audience. I welcome back, everybody. I am here with my co-host of our series, Living Well Through Healthy Life Approaches, Tarnie Fulloon, and we're talking about unwinding your anxious self today. And I want you to stick with us. I also want you to become part of our conversation if you're listening live. So you can go to the phone, write this down. It's area code 323-524-2599. If you're watching us, you can see it on the screen. If you're not watching, I hope you just heard it, 323-524-2599. If you're watching after the fact on my YouTube channel or Facebook page, go ahead and make a comment, ask a question. Tarnie and I will get back to you after the show. So we were touching on, the way to sort of unfreeze your body when you're in this fight or flight stage from the fear that's been created from the pandemic. I mean, we were talking a little earlier about statistics on everything that's up, what research has showed that, during this time that there's adrenal stress, anxiety, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, digestive issues. These are just to name a few of the things that are on the rise. That's how we know that this last year has taken a toll on our physical health. And that's a problem because now when, again, these things creep up, you don't take good care of yourself, and you tend to do the things that are more detrimental to your body than the things that are beneficial to your body. So let's talk about what those are and what we can do to alleviate these stressors. And you know so well, because you know from the inside out, and that, we'll split up, and we both know, within the realm of what we each do, what are some great techniques.
Thank you. Yes, Debbie. I just want to reiterate, and you've already said it, and I want to say it again, that research has shown, and there's lots of research over and over again saying that when we're stressed, when we stress the system, you do risk physical diseases. And as Debbie just mentioned, and I didn't mention this earlier, digestive issues are a really, real big indication of anxiety. And often clients that I work with, that they've all got digestive issues. Most of my clients that come in with their neck, back, shoulder pain and there's digestive issues included. And those are all related to the stress or the stressors on the body. So might not be feeling, having panic attacks or anxiety, but you're feeling you've got a stressor in the system. You've got a past trauma. I mean, they say at least 70% of adults have had some sort of trauma. Some of that turns into bigger things, like PTSD or anxiety or whatever. I mean, really panic attacks, I should say. But all of us have some sort of stress in the body. So it's really important. That's, I think, why meditation, for instance, and yoga and movement, exercises of all types, or exercise generally, and what Debbie does, the nutrition and health has taken off, because we must find ways to calm the nervous system. So I'd love to share a few ways, and I know Debbie's got some ways as well, of how to access that place where we can just find that calm, that peacefulness, and give our body and our system a break. One of the most obvious ones, and everybody hopefully will know this, but I will tell you, I teach this again and again and again, and I can't tell you how important it is to be reminded, and even I need to be reminded of it, and that is starting with your breath.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
So by one of the ways, and let me just tell you what I'll give you a couple of techniques. One is very simple. You take a nice big deep breath in, fill your belly, and then you make your breath, your out breath, longer than your in breath. Simply by doing that, the parasympathetic system starts to kick in, that we talked about earlier, the rest and digest. So taking a nice big deep breath in, fill your belly, and then so the breath is longer.
It's such a
the
great
out breath is longer than the in breath.
It's such a great way, no matter where you are or what you're doing, when someone says, stop and take a breath, there's real value in that. It's, it's not just a saying, it's an actuality. You could be on the freeway, somebody's cut you off, take a breath. You're on the phone, somebody's pissing you off because they don't have the order that should have been in, whatever, take a breath. It slows your heart rate. It does. It gets you back to your system, back into a calm mode. If you just stop and take a second to breathe, breathing is life, and if you're panting, you're obviously all revved up. If you slow it down and do what Tarnie said, I give my clients a belly breathing technique too, where when you take the breath in, you can you in your mind say the word belly. You're saying belly, and so that's about the amount of time. And then when you let go, you say the word, what's the word you say? Breathe. So belly is so it's a longer breath in than it is out. And breathe in through your nose. That's the technique I give my clients. But simply, if you're in a situation and you're in that, sudden spur of the moment, what do I do here? Take a breath. Whether you're in line somewhere and, got to have your eyes in front of you because you're driving, take a breath. Before you speak, before you do anything else, take that slow breath in through your nose and then release. It will calm you instantly. I
think of it as actually, Debbie, a pause also. It's like when I take that breath, it gives me a pause.
Gives you a second not to be impulsive, too.
Yeah, it just slows the whole system down. There's another way of doing it that I also love, but this one you can't do maybe if you're in the line at the bank. But you breathe in, same thing, same technique we just talked about, only you go, ha.
Right.
And you let a ha. out.
That,
And that's really very, for me, very freeing, very,
yes.
very calming.
And that, you're right. That's a good one. That not that it's if you're in your car, you can do that for sure. If
Yeah.
you're home, you can do
At
that.
home.
If
Yeah.
you're, Tarnie, your microphone is touching, and we're getting a lot of feedback.
Oh,
If you
sorry.
could pull it away from whatever it's touching, because
It got
we
moved.
want everybody to hear what we're talking about, because it's
There
so
you go.
important.
How's that? Is that better?
I think that's better. Yeah, yeah.
I think it moved. Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
yeah. No worries. It's better now. Yeah, I think that taking a breath anywhere will calm you, but using that ha will it gives you that sort of extra added sense of, and it slows your heart rate down. Just even longer, quicker, and it's the most instantaneous thing you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And that you can use the breath when you're overwhelmed, when you're feeling terrified, when you're feeling, when you've got a sense of, I've just got so much going on and I don't know how to calm down. It really is really important. And this is, and we talked about this earlier. It's a learned technique. It's teaching yourself, because what happens is we go into automatic responses.
Mm-hmm.
And that over time becomes, you think that it's very familiar, just like we drive the same way to the grocery store or the same way to work, or we do this, we would get into patterns. And so this is sort of also a pattern interrupt. It helps interrupt the pattern, interrupt that nervous system pattern. And by doing something, just focusing, or even just every hour, have I taken a breath? So many people just clench and tighten and find, hours later, they're just completely forgotten. They're totally disassociated with their body. So it brings you back into your body.
Yeah.
There is another breath that's really lovely, which I like to call is known as cellular breathing, where you imagine your whole body is just a one cell. So you're breathing in and expanding, and then you're just contracting, but you just feel your whole as one particular cell or one unit. So there's not all these different parts, but you feel the fluidity. You feel the fluidity, and this is really can soften your system. And it's the fluid system that we want to activate too with the parasympathetic. We want to move more into that fluid liquid. That's where you open up the spaces in the body, open up the tightness, the tension in the body can soften and release. It's the fluid system that carries the messages. So that's where you can listen more deeply to your system. And whereas when we're in the sympathetic, when we're clenching, when we're tight, nothing can move through, and there's a contracted place. The fluids aren't moving. So if you just imagine yourself as a cell and feel this breathing, in and out as a cell, it's extremely calming.
Wow, that's a good one. And there's also, and I've mentioned this before, and I've told my clients and they use it, there's a great app it's a combination of meditation, sound baths, just being still with meditative music, that you could use during these breathing techniques. It's called Insight Timer, and it's free. And you can give donations to any of the moderators or any of the teachers, but you don't have to. And so, because I know that some are other apps like Calm and there's meditative stories that are out there, those you have to pay for. But this one's free, and it has such a bevy of different ways to calm yourself that I know my clients now regularly use it. And like you said, changing the habit will change the way your body responds. So, and that takes time. It's like anything else. Learning to play the guitar isn't not overnight. It's doing it over and over again, and having making the incremental steps towards it becoming second nature almost. So,
I always say practice to my clients. This doesn't change, as you say, Debbie. It doesn't change. You don't learn to catch a ball by throwing it at once. You've got to keep practicing it. And the other thing I like to do when you're doing the cellular breath or the other breath, that you can actually ask yourself, what am I aware of right now? Or what am I feeling? Or what am I present to? So you can actually start bringing your awareness back inside, because so many of us, we get, or the world, the culture we live in, we get caught in our head and we don't listen. We're not, I shouldn't, not even just listen, we disassociate from our bodies.
Yeah.
And it's when you come back into your body and you connect the mind and the body, that's a much more holistic way to live.
Agreed.
Which is what you and I are both about.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what we help people help themselves do, because it's
Yes.
all within us. Sometimes that's what coaches do, is we help guide you based on our experience and expertise in letting you find it for yourself, because it's doable. It's very achievable. So there are other techniques for staying calm,
Yes.
and for getting rid of that anxious self that we should talk about. And then I also have a list, which is kind of fun, of mood enhancing foods. You know, I'll mention the things that we should stay away from. I touched on it slightly, but I also have a list of things that research has shown that these foods actually change your mood for the better. So, but let's talk about the other techniques. I know you and I both have a version of a shaking technique, which, you know, people will say, well, what is shaking? I mean, what does that mean? You know, like people think of shaking, you know, like making a drink and using a shaker, or, you know, but shaking is actually getting your whole body moving.
Right.
But and you can do it if you want. Again, it depends on where you're at and what the situation is. But if you know you're home and you're anxious about something, you can go put on one of your favorite songs that has a distinct beat to it, and just stand. I like to do it barefooted and just start moving to the rhythm, but start from the ground up. Start from your feet. And before, you know, I don't want you to do it or you're going to ruin your microphone. But when you start moving, and close your eyes and let the music take you on a shake ride. It's remarkable what you feel like when you come out of that. Now, some people can do it for the whole song. If you don't have time, just do it for a minute. But it's remarkable how it's a reset. And that's kind of what we're talking about right now, is resetting your body to get out of that fight or flight and just getting back to the calm. It's actually fun. And most people I know do it when they're alone. But, you know, it's not something obviously you can do in your car while you're driving. That's where the breath comes in. But this is something that actually is researched and proven to work. Now, you have a version, don't you? Do you?
Well, very similar. And I talk about it, you know, shaking to safety, meaning you shake. And so you just shake off. And I'm not going to do it because of my mic. But you just start off really small with a little bit of shake. And then you just let it build up. You can, you know, I often do it to music, but you can also not. It's like when you just want to get, maybe you're angry or frustrated or overwhelmed, or you need to settle down, and trying to sit still just doesn't work. It's actually the opposite to meditating, but it has a similar effect, just as Debbie's described. And, you know, you can shake and you can jump and you can use your voice, and I'm not going to do that either, but you can just sort of let the sound really come out. So and what it does is it actually dissipates that energy, that tension that's been built up in the body. And there's a response, and a sympathetic / parasympathetic response, or I should say probably a sympathetic response that turns into a parasympathetic response, because the sympathetic system is activated, but you're shaking it out. And then afterwards it's like a letdown, and that's where the calm comes in. And so that it grounds, and it brings you back into your body, and it really helps release any I guess toxins that are in the adrenals. It's very, 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 very healing.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Very important, actually, very powerful.
I'd try it. I mean, I would just challenge yourself to try it. If you're at home alone when we're done with the show, try it, or at some point, just try it. Even if you think that you're not, you know, anxious about something, just try it. It's a calmer, it's a mood enhancer. So you want to, you know, there's always that, you know, you can never go wrong. Let's put it that way.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, it obviously activates the endorphins, which is what exercise does. So that brings that hormone. And so that's fantastic. But also it There was something I was going to say. Oh, don't overdo it. You actually need to do the shaking in moderation. When you go crazy with it, which I've done and I've seen people do it, you can actually exhaust the system. So we're looking at this in terms of moderation. As Debbie said, you can't. Most people won't overdo it anyway, but some people can go really crazy.
Yeah,
so
you don't want to
be
get
mindful.
too. Yeah,
and
well,
you have to take care of your body. You have to take care.
Yeah.
Don't hurt yourself.
That's true, kind of about everything.
It is, isn't it?
I want to talk about one more technique, and then we take one more break, and then we're going to go through all the other ways that we can soothe the anxious self. But one of them is called earthing or grounding. And you and I have talked about this before. I've talked about it. I use it with my clients. A lot of times people will say, just get outside. Just go outside and connect with the earth. And it's even better if you can take your shoes off and go walk on dirt, grass. Along the beach is obviously very soothing. And connect with the earth in some way. And if you can do it for a period of time, like let's say 40 minutes or so, that's ideal. If you don't have that much time, if you're at a desk all day and you're anxious or you're tired and exhausted from whatever's going on in the office, and you've always heard step outside. Well, connect to the earth by stepping outside. Actually look up. Notice the trees. Notice what's around you. Feel a flower. Lie down on the ground. If you're watching us, you see that I pulled a picture that's somebody grounding themselves. That's taking a minute to breathe and just reset. I think it's one of the important things that I always recommend to my clients
and also as you're grounding, if I can just add to that, Debbie, and I totally concur with what you're saying, is becoming more present. So you then, as you're grounding, you're letting go of those judgmental thoughts. You're letting go of what you're holding on to. You're just becoming present to yourself. And that also brings, me back to you connecting then more to that deeper fluid. So when we're grounding, we're connecting. One of the things I love to do to ground is also feel my feet on the ground and just do a gentle spinal movement, a movement from your tailbone to the top of your head back down, and just feel that fluidity like a piece of seaweed. And it's very anchoring and very grounding. So opposite to the shaking, basically, what we're talking about.
Yeah. Or you can go step outside and shake while your feet are in the sand.
Well, you can do that too. That's true.
Whatever. Combine the two.
Lots of options.
We're going to
Yeah.
take the last break of the day, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about all the other goodies tools that we have to help you get through and unlock your anxious self. Okay, we'll be right back after this message. Today's podcast is presented by PodGo. PodGo is the easiest way for you to monetize your podcast, providing podcasters with a flat rate for space so you always know how much you get when you include an ad from PodGo. Apply today to become a member and immediately be connected with advertisers that fit your audience. That's podgo.co at podgo.co. And be sure to add my podcast in the How Did You Hear About PodGo section of the application, which is Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle, conversations that connect to a healthier you. Last time, we're back. Okay, so we're giving you techniques and ideas and ways that you can get rid of stress and really get yourself back to a calm state of being. We've got 10 minutes left, just within the time. We want to talk about a couple of other techniques, and then I do want to talk about diet and exercise a little bit too, because that's super important, and it's just something that, should be part of everybody's life that they're conscientious about. So we were talking about earthing and grounding before. I have one other thing that I realized really helps in situations for people to calm themselves so they don't take on too much. And that's just learning to say no. Sometimes it's okay to say no. If you take on too many things, the stress factor goes up, your cortisol levels change. Now you're not sleeping because you're worried how you're going to get everything done. And again, you're not eating right or doing any of the things that we've been talking about today. So learn to see where your priorities lie. Think about things ahead of time. Again, step back, take that breath, sit down, realize what is doable and what is not. And you can do it in the best possible way. You don't have to be rude to say no. So that's...
And I'd love that. Yes, it's a really important one, Debbie, because what it does is, again, when you say no, it actually feeds your empowers you, which helps to calm you, which then activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And along with that, if I can add, there's, and we've talked about these things, but journal writing, the self-forgiveness work, writing with your non-dominant hand, going, feeling, being able to express yourself, and which is what you were talking about, Debbie, being able to say no or yes, but then that's about feeling the feelings. It's about knowing what it's like to be in your body. Usually when we're in an anxious self is because you're often disconnected from those deeper feelings, for those deeper needs, those deeper wants, and those deeper things that you need to be taking care of. And so it's learning to communicate them, understand them, know what your limiting beliefs are. There's other work to be done. But I want to go back to what Debbie's saying about exercise and diet is just absolutely key. And I'm curious to hear what she's going to say, because it's certainly been part of my journey. I've been an athlete or an exerciser. I still do a lot of movement and exercise now, and I'm very, very conscious of my diet. That actually really happened in my late 20s when I had to look at, I had some health issues, and I really had to look at what I was eating. So Debbie, I'd love to hear from you about that, because it's certainly been a significant part of my journey as well.
Yeah, and mine too. And for those who watch the show regularly, you kind of know my story. If you go to my website, balancelifebydebbie.com, you'll see, what brought me to the health and wellness field in the first place. But I used to call myself a processed kid because I grew up on processed food. And the long and the short of it was, it made me fat, it made me brain foggy, and it made me sick. And I wasn't getting out of life as a teenager. It was bothering me because I was the chubby girl who didn't have a boyfriend. And I didn't know back then that you actually can take control of how you feel through the food you eat. And I discovered that in college. And I knew once I figured it out, once I started eating off of salad bars, I went off the college school cafeteria plan. And when I started eating things that were nurturing me and giving me vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that my body was lacking, my brain fog went away, my weight went down, my mood changed, my grades changed, and guess what? I got a boyfriend who eventually became my husband. So those things I was able to manifest simply by changing the harmful thing that I was doing to myself, and that was eating processed food. So the first and foremost, I tell everybody, and this is irregardless, I'm going to talk about foods that specifically help to enhance your mood, but first and foremost, stop eating processed food. If I can say anything else, what is processed food? Anything that isn't one ingredient, the actual essence of the food that comes from the ground, the earth, the trees, whatever anything that's added to a food is processed. Now, there are some things that are good that add it. So you combine flavors and things, herbs and spices, that's fine. But so much junk and additives and preservatives have been put into our food. Well, when you eat that, guess where that goes? Into you. And then that's where disease starts, that's where all those free radicals get a hold. Your cells go back. You get leaky gut, inflammation, you name it. That's where all those disease, heart disease, autoimmune diseases, cancers, all kinds of things start creeping in when we're not feeding ourselves literally with good, healthy food. So my suggestion has always been that the more greens that you can eat, the more things from the earth that you can eat, vegetables, then fruits, and the good carbohydrates, things that aren't processed, are good for you. There's so many diet ideas out there, and people get confused because they think of diet as losing weight. I think of diet as lifestyle, and it's really just eating healthy. So I'm going to touch on what mood boosting foods are. Now that you know that unprocessed foods is just start there. Then go organic, and then figure out the source of your food. So, like for one, trout is like a mood enhancing food. It's really big in the omega-3s, and omega-3s are really important. So omega-3 fishes, when you start, salmon is a great omega-3 fish, but you want to get wild caught. So once you start getting healthy, you start to dig a little deeper to get even healthier than that. Believe it or not, chocolate is a mood-enhancing food. It's known to change your dopamine levels and aid them, and which is our feel-good, serotonin levels that we change. But just make sure that it's dark chocolate, it's 70% or above cacao, and that the sugar content is extremely low because it is, chocolate is processed. Fermented foods. Fermented foods are probiotic. They are gut healthy bacteria foods. So again, just make sure there's no additives in it, but anywhere you can get a fermented food, we're talking kimchi, we're talking sauerkrauts, pickles, those kind of things, those are fermented foods. Nuts, a handful of nuts will change your mood because it's protein, it's good oils, it's good carbohydrates, good fats. Those are the kind of things that you want to put in your body. As long as you don't overdo it and look at the source of your nuts, try to go organic, non-salted, and nothing added to it, you're going to get a good boost of energy from nuts. And chicken, believe it or not, as long as you look and make sure that, again, that it's healthy and organic, is a great boost of vitamins B6 and vitamin B12. And again, I like to go organic, farm raised, ranch free, no antibiotics, any of that. And you can cook chicken so many different ways. Put it over sauteed spinach and mushrooms. If you get a hold of me, I'm happy to offer my listeners. I have a recipe book that I can send to you. And there's so many wonderful, healthy recipes in there and ways to cook food that's actually good for you. And then they talk about oysters, being an aphrodisiac, but oysters are actually really high in DHA and omega-3 fatty acids. It's one of the best, healthiest foods that you can eat. They talk about it being a brain enhancer. And the gut-brain connection is very, very real because what you put in your gut is going to end up whether or not you can think clearly. We're getting so close to the end. We're going to have to wrap it up. I want to also mention that exercise is of vital importance. So find what you love to do, whether it's walk, whether it's run, bike, swim, find the sport, find the thing you like to do, mix it up if you can a little bit, get your body moving and your blood pumping. That will change your mood. It will alleviate stress and put you back on track to health. All right, Tarnie, what do you have to say for some final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. Absolutely. Exercise, just basically exercise and food connect you to your body, but then doing the deeper awareness of the breath and the gentle fluid movement and making sure that you ground and take time for yourself. So you drop in, so you can activate the rest and restore system, which is the parasympathetic. And I just want to say to finish, Debbie, thank you very much. It's been great to be with you. And for the listeners, if you'd like to come to my Tuesday night, I've got a free meditation every Tuesday night from 5 till 5:30. It's a body centering meditation. And it's a great way to start, to start listening more deeply to your body. And we go through some of these techniques as well. So
perfect. Thank you, Tarnie. Yeah, we have one more session left in our series. I invite you to go to my YouTube channel, Balanced Life by Debbie. Our whole series is there, what we've been talking about. All great things to help you live a much better, non-anxious, healthy life. So we'd like to hear from you post-show today, too. So you can go to my Facebook page, Balanced Life by Debbie, and hit us in the comments, or go to my website and hit a comment there. or you can go to the YouTube channel and make a comment there. All Balanced Life by Debbie. And I want to thank you, Tarnie. I can't wait to our next show, which we'll be doing in about 6 weeks. And I want to thank you, my audience, for joining us today. And I hope you got some good techniques, because all of this stuff, if you put it into action, I guarantee you're going to feel better. And remember to keep going out and having those conversations that connect to a healthier you. All right, everybody. Bye. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.